The name that should never be spoken, the grand hall of the Galactic Council, was never quiet. Normally the air vibrated with the deep hum of alien voices, some speaking in words, others in clicks, growls, or glowing pulses of light. But today, silence had settled over the chamber like a heavy fog. All eyes turned to the delegate from the Zorath Union, a tall, thin alien with silver skin and eyes like pools of black oil. His long fingers trembled as he held an ancient star map above his head. "I bring news from the Forbidden Archives," he said, his voice breaking. "We have found it." The room reacted like a storm. Delegates gasped, hissed, or whispered to translators. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but the Zorath delegate didn't smile. The Supreme Chancellor, a massive being covered in scaled armor, leaned forward. "Found what?" the Chancellor asked, his voice echoing through the hall. The Zorath's black eyes flicked toward the center of the chamber. His voice dropped so low that even the translators struggled. "Earth's true name." The reaction was instant. One delegate, a small, furred creature from the Veil Worlds, covered its ears and hissed, "Do not say it here." Another stood so quickly their chair fell over. Someone in the far corner muttered a curse in their native tongue. The Chancellor narrowed his eyes. "Explain." The Zorath took a step forward, lowering the map onto the glowing table in the center. The holographic projection of the galaxy lit up, its spiral arms spreading like the limbs of a giant starfish. His finger hovered over a small, unremarkable dot on the outer rim. "This is Earth," he said. "But this is not the name the archives gave us. In the records I found, records locked for over 10,000 cycles, the humans called themselves something else. A name older than the council itself." Murmurs filled the hall again. Some were skeptical. Others looked afraid. The word humans had not been spoken in the council for centuries. A representative from the aquatic world of Yensha rose from her water-filled sphere. "The humans are gone, wiped out. This is meaningless superstition." The Zorath shook his head. "No, they are not gone. They withdrew. And the archives say, if their true name is spoken aloud in this chamber, the humans will know, they will hear it, and they will come." The Chancellor leaned back in his throne. "Come? For what?" No one answered. The chamber's great skylight dimmed as a passing ship's shadow fell across it. The sudden darkness made the atmosphere heavier. Finally, the Chancellor broke the silence. "Delegate Zorath, speak the name." Gasps. Shouts of protest. One delegate pounded the table, yelling, "This is madness!" Another hissed, "Do you wish to bring death to us all?" The Chancellor raised a clawed hand, silencing them. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "The Council must know, we cannot fear shadows." Zorath's long fingers gripped the table. He looked around at the hundreds of faces staring at him, faces of every shape and color, eyes and lenses, fur and scales, bone and metal. He could feel their fear like heat on his skin. He opened his mouth, and then closed it. For a heartbeat he thought he heard something. A faint hum, a sound like wind, but coming from nowhere. It was only in his head, wasn't it? He glanced at the Chancellor, who gave a single slow nod. Zorath took a deep breath. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Their name is—" The lights in the grand hall flickered. Not just the lights. Every power crystal in the chamber dimmed, then surged. The air seemed to thicken. A deep vibration rolled through the floor. Delegates froze. Someone shouted, "What's happening?" Another delegate's translator burst into static. Zorath's voice cracked as he finished speaking the name, a sound that didn't belong in any alien language, sharp and human. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then from the ancient speakers mounted in the council walls, a voice spoke. It was not alien. It was human. "We hear you." Every translator in the room repeated it, in every language. No one moved. No one breathed. The Chancellor's eyes widened. "Get me the communications chief," he barked. "They're already here," someone whispered. Zorath stumbled back from the table. His fingers were shaking so hard he could barely hold the map. "I told you," he said, his voice breaking. "They heard us." Somewhere in the galaxy, no one knew where, something had woken up. And it was coming. The first whisper, the words "we hear you" still hung in the grand hall like an echo trapped in stone. At first, some thought it was a trick, a glitch in the translation system, but then the lights flickered again, this time in a slow, deliberate rhythm, not random, a pattern. "That's a signal," whispered Keltar, the oldest scientist on the council. His voice shook. "It's Morse code." Most delegates didn't know what Morse code was, but the ones who did stared at each other in fear. Only humans had used that form of communication. The Chancellor's command voice boomed. "Shut down all external receivers. Seal the chamber." Guards in dark armor moved quickly, locking the doors, activating force barriers. The sound of heavy metal seals closing filled the air. Still the voice came again. "We hear you." But this time, it wasn't coming from the walls, it was coming from every device. Personal communicators, security headsets, even the emergency lights hummed the words in vibration. One delegate threw his communicator to the floor, smashing it. The voice continued from the shards. The Yensha representative floated nervously inside her sphere of water, the ripples around her trembling. "This is impossible. No species can take control of our systems like this." Zorath stepped forward, his silver skin pale. "No species, except them." The Chancellor glared. "Explain." Zorath's long fingers danced over the holographic map. Humans were not only warriors, they were builders. They're machines. They learned. They adapted. It is said their technology could move faster than thought, perhaps faster than time itself. Keltar spoke again, slower this time, as if tasting each word. "If they are truly hearing us, they did not receive our message. They were already listening." A cold silence spread across the hall. Then a sound broke it, a soft chime like an old doorbell. It came from the center of the chamber where no device should exist. The council table's surface shimmered, then a hazy projection formed above it. It was a man, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark fabric that seemed to absorb the light. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp enough to cut through steel. "Galactic Council," the figure said, his voice steady. "You spoke the name. You broke the silence." Delegates leaned back, some shielding themselves with their robes as if the image could harm them. The Chancellor tried to sound strong. "Identify yourself." The man tilted his head slightly. "Names have power. You, of all beings, should know this." His eyes swept across the chamber. "You have remembered ours. Now we have remembered you." A delegate from the Rim world stood, his voice trembling. "If this is some kind of threat," the man's gaze turned toward him. The delegate's voice stopped instantly, as though someone had pressed a hand over his mouth. "This is not a threat," the man said softly. "It is a warning." He raised a hand, and the galaxy map above the table shifted. Dozens of glowing points lit up an empty space. "These," the man continued, "are the places where your history is wrong, where your council removed our name from your records. You think you erased us. You did not." The projection's light flickered, and for a moment the man's face changed. Older, scarred, with shadows in his eyes. Then it returned to calm. "You have one cycle to decide how this ends." Before anyone could reply, the image blinked out. The hall was left in stunned silence, broken only by the slow, steady hum of the emergency lights. Finally, the Chancellor spoke, his voice quieter than before. "One cycle. Until what?" Zorath didn't answer. But deep inside, he already knew. The ghost signal. The Chancellor had barely ordered the council doors unsealed when the first reports came in. Emergency transmission from Sector A9. Power grids failing on Chorus Prime. Unknown code detected on all long-range comms. The messages came one after another, like heavy rain on glass. The Grand Hall's screens lit up with frantic feeds, alien leaders shouting into cameras, engineers tearing apart panels, security forces locking down cities. But it wasn't just the chaos that froze every delegate in place. It was the sound. The human voice. It was everywhere now, not just in the council chamber, but in every starport, every private home, every ship drifting in the void. No matter the language, the words came clear. We heard you. It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, it was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that made you realize the speaker had no need to raise their voice. A Veil World representative gripped the table, his fur standing on end. "They're inside our systems," he whispered. "All of them." On the main hollow screen, a fleet commander from the outer colonies appeared. His 6 eyes were wide with panic. "We shut down our comms, we ripped out the receivers, but the voice, it's coming from inside our ships." Zorath felt the silver skin along his neck prickle. Humans were not supposed to have this reach. The last recorded human technology was centuries old, rusted and forgotten. Yet here they were, speaking into the very bones of the galaxy. A scientist from the inner worlds leaned forward. "If this is true, by them, they are using something beyond FTL. This message is arriving faster than light, faster than thought." Keltar, the oldest among them, shook his head slowly. "No, it's not arriving. It's been here, waiting. All they needed was the name." The words hung heavy in the air. Then the voice came again, but this time it wasn't the same message. "We are coming." It echoed through the hall like a cold wind. Delegates looked at one another in disbelief. Some rose from their seats, others tried to leave, only to find the chamber doors locked from the outside. The Chancellor slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Find the source. Track it." A council tech worked frantically, screens flashing red. Finally his hands stopped moving, his voice cracked. "Sir? It's coming from everywhere. Every quadrant. Every system. At once." Suddenly the holomap in the center of the chamber flared to life. Dozens of faint red dots appeared along the edge of the galaxy. They pulsed, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. The Chancellor frowned. "What are those?" The tech swallowed. "Ships." Someone gasped. Another delegate shouted, "That's impossible. No fleet that size exists anymore." Zorath stared at the map, his voice no louder than a breath. "It's not a fleet." He looked up, his black eyes full of something between awe and terror. "It's theirs." The red dots began to move inward. In every corner of the galaxy, rumors exploded. Civilian worlds went dark, pulling their satellites down from orbit. Trade hubs shut their gates. Some planets sent surrender messages into open space, not even knowing if the humans could hear them. They could. On one feed from a distant mining colony, a human voice responded to a surrender. "We have not come for your worlds. We have come for your truth." Back in the Grand Hall, the Chancellor's scales caught the dim light. "Truth about what?" he growled. "Lead." But deep down, everyone knew. They had hidden something the humans had never forgotten. And now the ghosts were coming home. Fear across the stars. The human fleet was still days away from the Council's capital world, but fear had already arrived. It began with whispers, traders in shadowy ports exchanging rumors about black ships the size of moons, colonies that had vanished without a fight, and entire defense networks that had simply shut down when the humans spoke. By the third day, it was no longer whispers, it was chaos. On Vera Prime, the military governor ordered the immediate dismantling of all orbital weapons. "If they come here," he told the news feeds, "I want them to know we are not a threat." His own people called him a coward. On the desert world of Karash, soldiers stood in the burning heat, loading war cannons that hadn't been used in centuries. They painted their armor with old war symbols, ready to face whatever came. Their commanders knew it would make no difference. The fear didn't follow logic. It didn't matter if a world had ever even heard of humans before this week. The reaction was the same: prepare for surrender, or prepare for death. Inside the Grand Hall, the Council was fracturing. The aquatic Yensha representative floated restless inside her sphere, her long fins twitching. "We must send an envoy," she urged. "Show them we are willing to speak." The Veil World delegate slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Speak. They are invaders. We should strike before they get closer." Zorath shook his silver head slowly. You cannot strike at a storm and expect it to fall. The Chancellor watched them argue, his gaze cold. He had seen empires fall before, but never because of fear alone. Yet now he saw it in their eyes. Not just fear of war, but fear of the truth the humans carried with them. Because every leader in that chamber knew what the Council had done centuries ago. They had not just erased humans from history, they had stolen something from them. And the humans had returned to take it back. In the outer colonies, panic was turning violent. Crowds stormed government halls, demanding answers. In the sky above one such world, a strange thing happened. A single black shape appeared, hovering in low orbit. It was not large, it made no sound, and yet every weapon in range shut down instantly. Then a voice rolled across the planet, not loud but clear in every mind. We are not here for your people. We are here for your council. When the news of that message reached the Grand Hall, it was like a blade pressed to every throat in the room. Keltar, the old scientist, leaned toward the Chancellor. If they mean what they say, they will not harm the galaxy. But if they do not, the Chancellor cut him off. If they do not, we will all burn. The galaxy waited. Ships gathered in the dark between stars. Families fled to moons and hidden stations. Worlds locked themselves behind force fields. And still, the human fleet moved closer, silent and unstoppable. On the fourth night, the Chancellor stood alone in the hall after the others had gone. The galaxy map before him glowed faint red from the approaching fleet. For the first time in his long life, he whispered a prayer, to no god in particular, but to the hope that whatever the humans wanted, it was something the Council could give without losing everything. He did not know that far away, on the lead human ship, someone was already watching him. The arrival. The day the humans arrived, the capital world of the Galactic Council woke under a strange sky. At first, the dawn came as it always did, light spilling across the towering spires, fleets moving lazily through the atmosphere. But then the light dimmed, as if a great shadow had passed over the sun. In the Grand Hall, the Chancellor looked up from his seat. "What is that?" he demanded. An aide rushed to the viewing glass, his skin pale. "Sir, it's not a cloud. It was a ship. No, not a ship. Something larger. It drifted silently above the city. Its hull a deep black that seemed to drink the daylight. Its shape was wrong, almost unnatural, like it had been built by something that understood the laws of physics but chose to ignore them. It made no sound. No engine roar. No thruster glow. Yet it moved with purpose, sliding across the sky until it hung directly over the Council Tower. Every defense system on the planet came online at once. Orbital cannons rotated, missile silos opened, fighters swarmed into formation. The Council's main AI locked onto the target, preparing to fire, and then every weapon shut down. Not exploded, not jammed, just stopped. Screens went black. Targeting systems died. Missiles froze in their launch tubes. Even the fighter craft hung motionless in the air, powerless, drifting like leaves in still water. The Chancellor slammed his hand on the table. "Who gave the order to stand down?" "No one, sir," the defense commander cried. "They just took control." Then without warning, a beam of light fell from the belly of the human ship, striking the center of the Grand Hall. It wasn't hot, wasn't destructive, just a column of pale gold that hummed with quiet energy. From within it, a figure appeared. He was human. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in simple black with no armor, no weapon. His eyes swept across the chamber, calm but unblinking, as if he could see through every mind present. No one spoke. Even the Chancellor sat frozen. The man took a single step forward. His voice was low, yet it carried to every corner of the hall. "You spoke the name." A shiver ran through the room. "You broke the silence we gave you," he continued, "and so we have come to collect what is ours." The Chancellor found his voice. "This is the Council's capital world. You have violated our—" The man's gaze shifted to him, and the words died in the Chancellor's throat. "You call it your world. Teat, the human said softly, but you built your towers from what you took from ours. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. Some knew the truth. Others only now realized the council's secret was about to be dragged into the light. Zorath rose slowly from his seat. What is it you want from us? The human stepped closer. Not from you. From the truth you buried. From the memory you tried to erase. He paused, his eyes sweeping the hall again. And we will have it. Before anyone could respond, the human turned back toward the beam of light. As he stepped into it, his voice echoed one last time. You have until our fleet arrives in full. Then he was gone. The golden light faded, leaving only the silence and the shadow of the black ship still hanging above the city. And somewhere beyond the edge of the system, more ships were coming. The truth revealed, the black ship did not leave. It simply hung in the sky, silent, as if watching. 3 days passed. No weapons worked. No ships entered or left the capital without permission from whatever controlled that vessel. Life continued, but under a heavy, invisible hand. On the 4th day, the council received a transmission. It wasn't a request. It was an instruction. Come to the hall, all of you. Every delegate obeyed, not because they wanted to, but because they felt they had no choice. The black ship's presence was a constant reminder that defiance would be meaningless. When they arrived, the hall's great skylight was already darkened by the shadow above. The golden beam returned, and once again a human stepped through. This time, it wasn't the same man as before. She was tall, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes sharp and cold. She carried no weapon, yet her voice struck like one. You sit in these chairs, she began, and you pretend to lead the galaxy, but your leadership is built on a lie. The Chancellor, R's claws tapped the table. Speak your accusation, human. She stepped forward, placing a small black cube on the table's surface. The moment it touched the metal, the entire room flickered and an image filled the air. It was history. Real history. The council saw it. Humans, not as primitive wanderers, but as builders of vast cities, masters of fleets larger than any in the galaxy today, worlds working together under their guidance, technology beyond understanding, machines that move stars, ships that could vanish and reappear anywhere. And then, the betrayal. The recording showed the council, younger but recognizable, signing a pact with humanity, then breaking it in secret. A fleet of allied worlds striking Earth's home systems without warning, cities burning, ships falling from the sky. One by one, the human colonies went silent. The galaxy was told they had vanished, but in truth, they had been forced out, driven to the dark edges of space. You feared us, the woman said, her voice steady. Not because we were cruel, but because we were free. Because we built without your permission. And so you buried our name. You made us into a myth. The Veil World delegate slammed a clawed fist onto the table. We did what was necessary for survival. The woman's eyes locked on him. Whose survival? Yours? Or the survival of your control? No one answered. The recording changed. Now it showed human ships retreating into deep black space. But instead of despair, the faces of their crews were calm. They were not fleeing in fear, they were leaving with purpose. You thought you exiled us, the woman continued. In truth, we chose to leave. We built in the dark. We learned. We waited. The Chancellor's voice was low now, almost a growl. And now you return to punish us? The woman shook her head. No, we return for what is ours. She looked around the chamber. You still have it. Zorath leaned forward, his voice soft but urgent. What is it? The woman stepped back toward the golden beam. You already know. Before she vanished, she spoke one final sentence that chilled the room. And if you do not give it back, you will never speak again. The beam faded. The image of the past dissolved, and the silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. The new order, the council met in emergency session before dawn. The black ship still hung in the sky, unmoving, silent, and yet every delegate could feel it watching. No one spoke at first. The air in the grand hall was heavy, the kind of stillness before a storm. Finally, the chancellor broke it. "We must vote," he said. "We decide now. Do we return what we took, or do we resist?" The words were met with murmurs and shifting eyes. Some delegates looked ready to agree immediately. Others were set in quiet defiance. The Yensha representative floated forward in her sphere of water, her voice trembling. "If we resist, we will be destroyed. We all know this. They have not fired a shot, and yet they have taken control of everything. This is not a war we can win." The Veil World delegates snarled. "If we give in, we show weakness. We hand them power over the galaxy." Zorath stood slowly. His silver skin caught the dim light, his black eyes steady. "You speak of power as though they do not already hold it. They are not asking for our submission. They are asking for the truth we buried. If we deny them, we confirm we are the villains of their history." The room fell silent. Even the most stubborn delegates had no counter to that. The chancellor's claws tapped the table. "Then, let us vote." One by one, voices answered. Yes, yes, no, yes, abstain. The tally grew. When the final count appeared, the decision was clear. The majority had chosen to return what was taken. The chancellor stood. "Send word to them." The message was sent, and for the first time since its arrival, the black ship moved. Slowly, it descended. Hovering just above the city, the golden beam returned, and from it stepped the same woman who had shown them the truth. Her gaze swept the hall. "You have chosen," the chancellor nodded. "We will return what was taken." The woman's eyes did not soften. "Bring it here." A small group of council guards entered, carrying a sealed container the size of a child. It pulsed faintly with light, as if it held a living heart. When they placed it before her, the woman touched the seal. It dissolved, revealing a crystal sphere filled with shifting colors, deep blues, burning golds, and flashes of white light. Zorath leaned forward. "What is it?" The woman's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "It is our name. Our real one. The one you tried to erase from the galaxy's memory." She lifted the sphere, and the moment her hands closed around it, the air in the hall changed. Every delegate felt it, a weight lifting, a presence awakening. Outside, the black ship turned toward the stars, and in that moment, across the galaxy, systems came back to life, weapons, comms, engines, all restored. The woman stepped back into the golden beam, but just before it carried her away, she looked at the chancellor and said, "You think you know the name you spoke to call us here, but that was not it." The chancellor's brow furrowed. "Then, what did we speak?" Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "A question." And then she was gone. The black ship vanished into the void, taking the fleet with it. The galaxy was left in uneasy peace. Trade resumed, ships moved freely again, but in every corner of known space, one question remained. If the name the council had spoken was not Earth's true name, what was? And somewhere in the dark between stars, humanity kept the answer, waiting for the day it would be spoken again.